All right, what's up, everybody? We have Antonio Fletcher here, and we are going to be dealing with a discussion that had just happened between myself and Steve, and a couple of other people as well, I believe. I think Hogtie got himself involved, and Phony Beetle Maniacs. Um, Before I start reading this, I want Antonio to explain to him what the purpose of this video was. That way it's not coming from me. Antonio, explain to the viewers what you want them to understand your argument was about, what you were trying to say, what the actual topic is that we're going to be speaking about right now.
Was you talking to me, man? I had an echo in the background because I forgot to mute the YouTube feed. Did you say something to me?
Oh, yeah. Basically, what I want you to do is I want you, before we begin to read the comments in that thread, I want you to explain to people what it is that the video actually had to do about before we continue, because I think that that's very important. And before he actually continues to talk about this video, I want people to understand why we're doing this hangout. Steve, who is one of the non-believers that's going to be in this thread, fails over and over and over again in this thread. He backpedals, shifts the goalpost, and tries to play stupid with some fallacies. Antonio, before we begin and we get into all that, I want them to know exactly what it is that your stance is on this video. What is it that you were trying to argue before we go on?
Oh, yes. Basically, what I was doing was giving an explanation on what the genetic fallacy is. Now, I did a short video explaining this, and I was just explaining a little background on an encounter I had with Skylar Fiction on this genetic fallacy thing. I did the video because me as a pro-lifer, I encounter that fallacy quite a bit. I've come across people who would look at certain information that I would present to them, and then they'll say things like, well, you got that from a pro-life source, or this dude had pro-life leaning views. And solely on that basis, they would try to discredit the information and arguments that I give to them. And I was just saying, well, you can't do that because that's a genetic fallacy. It would be equally a fallacy if I were to say something like, well, you cited that source from the National Abortion Federation, therefore it's invalid, and I shouldn't take it seriously. So it cuts both ways. It's obviously a fallacy because it's meant to deal with a defect in an origin of a person, place, or thing, rather than the information or the argument presented in question. So I was just giving my analysis on the genetic fallacy because I'm just trying to inform pro-lifers that when you're dealing with a lot of pro-abortion discussion, that's going to be a fallacy you regularly encounter. In fact, it's also true for a lot of Christians as well, because you'll come across non-believers who are saying something like, you just believe in an old book, as if, you know, an old book or origin is a sufficient case to make an argument. It's not. And just as an aside, I find it quite interesting that some of the people who say that Christians believe in an old book will appeal to other Christians who believe in that same old book who claim to be pro-choice or something like that. So it's quite, and that's just a little aside point, but the main issue here is, what's important is that you don't discredit the source based on its origin. And that's all I was explaining. And of course, Steve McRae and other people in his general circles just came, pouncing on the video like a gang. It was just completely missing the point and completely detracting from the specific point I was making in the video.
They not only detracted from your claim that you made, they were detracting from their own claims. Every time they would be called out, they would try to change the topic, posture, and just waste time. And I think that this hangout's important for people to understand why it is on my other channel, why I just shun this community. I've decided not to bring any attention to them. That channel is obviously getting a lot more views than my own channel. This channel right here So there's no reason for me to be drawing all this attention to these people, as if they're a threat or are to be taken more seriously than they actually are. So this is actually in response to a post that I made. I said, Skylar, Skylar made a lot of mistakes in that discussion, bro. I am also going to be making a response over it. You did a great job keeping him on his toes." And then he said, "Thanks, Antonio." And Steve responds by saying, "You are not understanding the genetic fallacy correctly. A genetic fallacy would be if someone says that an argument is T or F, true or false, because of its source. There is absolutely nothing fallacious about a provisional position based upon the source material. If a source has a bias or has been known to be inaccurate, frequently we can and should provisionally assume the credibility of the arguments being cited from it. Example, the National Enquirer claims aliens ate my baby. One can say, based upon the history of the credibility of the National Enquirer, we can provisionally say that the accuracy of the claims is probably questionable. It would only be a genetic fallacy if we said, because the history is in the National Enquirer, it is false. But that is not what Skylar and others are doing. We are saying that because a story is from the National Enquirer or Evolution News and Views, ICR, Creation.com, AIG, etc., that it is probably not correct based upon provisional reasoning from their historical record of being inaccurate. That is not a genetic fallacy. People have explained this to you and others a few times, and you still keep misunderstanding it. Now, I'm going to go on it from this angle. I'm going to approach what he just said right now. If Antonio, you have anything that you want to say on this or add later through the thread, I'll give you the floor so that you can respond to it. But you hear him make this.
Yeah, I'll just give you your explanation, and then what I have to say on it actually comes in the next sequential set of comments. So you can go ahead and give your explanation.
Okay, so most of the thread is just him saying, "You guys are stupid. You guys get science wrong. You're dumb." History of not understanding what you're saying and all that other crap, right? So he makes a particular claim here. Let me scroll down. Because, okay, it should be right up above here. Okay, he says there are experts who say that Tompkins is correct and experts who would say he's not. He says there is a huge disproportionate degree of experts who would 100% disagree with him, and those who do agree.
Just for a bit of context, bro. Just for a bit of context, there are experts who would say Tompkins is incorrect, and experts who would say he's not. That was a comment of mine that he quoted, and then that bit down there he responded to.
Right. So he says there is a huge disproportionate degree of experts who would 100% disagree with him, and those who do agree. He says that is something you all never seem to notice. A handful of younger creationists who agree with Tompkins as compared to 99.7% estimate who don't. And that's an unfounded assertion. I actually have challenged all of them to back that assertion up, that 99.9% of the scientists actually agree with evolution. There's only actually been a couple of thousand that have actually been polled, and there's 7 to 8 million scientists out there active. In order for them to be able to prove that they're going to, that many people have been in support of evolution or agree with these evolutionary theory views, they're going to have to actually back that up. And most polls, they don't stretch that far. Only a couple thousand have actually been polled worldwide. But we'll get sort of into that in a little bit later. That is very telling. You will always have some people who disagree on something, but they are statistically outliers. Most things of 3 standard deviations of greater than 99.37% can be dismissed outliners and not taken into account as being statistically significant. As far as the genetic fallacy, I have said before, will say again, the genetic fallacy is when you summarily claim that the proposition is T or F based solely upon its source. Man, you guys get on me for my grammar, man. Look at this guy. It is not a genetic fallacy if we can actually take into account the historical record of accuracy of a source to make provisional position the veracity of the proposition. If someone uses AIG as a scientific source for a claim, it's not a genetic fallacy to not accept that the source as valid based upon its basis and failures of being factually reliable. I am not sure how this is lost upon you. So I respond to him and I say, I call him out on this statement. Basically, there was a huge disproportionate degree of experts who would 100% disagree with him. So I tell him, prove it. Show me the exact quotes from at least 10 geneticists with more published articles than Tompkins. Should be an easy task. He says, right down here, let me scroll down. And I respond to him more thoroughly. I tell him, if someone uses AIG as a specific source for a claim, it's not a genetic fallacy to not accept the source as being valid based upon its basis and failures of being factually reliable. This is just an opinionated assertion, I told him. According to who? You? The evolutionists, right? I could say the same thing in the reverse to secular sites that defend evolution or go against creationist claims like Talk Origins. You have to go through the claims and show why they are wrong before you can make the statements, because you haven't at all. You're offering is an assertion to smuggle in the genetic fallacy. So we go down here a little bit further. He says this: why geneticists? Why not people who have a degree in biological fields or related field? This is bioinformatics, which is Sam's area of expertise, not Dr. Tompkins. Now we're talking about an issue of genetics. You can sit over here and say that Sam actually has some expertise when it comes to bioinformatics, which would relate to the article slightly that Tompkins had published, but Tompkins is a geneticist. He doesn't have more expertise on this area than Tompkins does. But he said that he has an overwhelming amount of people that were basically in support of his position, right? That were more qualified than Tompkins, and he wasn't able to do so. Here's what he offers. Tompkins never published, so we can only go by those who have read his blog and have noted it wrong, including PZ Myers, expert from Biologos, Dr. Fazale, Renee from Reason to Believe, my guest on my channel tomorrow at 5, Fiona, Sam, Hawkeye Champ, CRISPR, Rational Mind, Daryl Soar, and that's basically it. Now, I point out to him earlier here, let me see, I said Tompkins never published, I quote him, Tompkins never published. Tompkins has published over 56 mainstream articles and another 17 or so in creationist journals. These creationist journals were peer reviewed by scientific experts such as PhD marine biologist Robert Carter. Again, you have no clue what you're talking about. He says, why geneticists? Because you said more qualified. Tompkins is a geneticist, so he has the exact credentials that would be needed for this. Are you now shifting the goalpost because after puffing out your chest with a load of BS, you realize again your statements are going to be flushed down the toilet? I've spoken to most, and CRISPR, Rational, and Daryl seem to be very underhanded, and none of them are experts. Are you resorting to lying? Taking of a course in biology doesn't make you an expert. Remember, you are saying more qualified, and there is some overwhelming majority with most of these people you have mentioned. They have been in my room only for me to hear long spaces of silences, simply because they don't understand certain topics relating to the science. So now he says Tompkins never published on human chromosome 2. He did publish it, and he's actually had scientists within the confines of these creationist scientists. But again, you're going to have to actually refute what they're saying. So basically, all he's basically doing right now is he's not showing an overwhelming amount of people supporting the claims that he's presenting. He's not showing in any way why AIG or these creationist websites are invalid. He's only making an assertion that basically because of creationist websites that their history of information is basically invalid. It's just an assertion, right? I can say the same thing in the reverse. I feel the same way about evolutionist views. When I see some of these evolutionist websites that people link me to, that's all I have to say then, because it's my opinion. It's of my opinion that all of that is going to be trash. Therefore, I can just use my opinion and an assertion to get around the genetic fallacy. It's still a genetic fallacy. What he's doing is a genetic fallacy due to the very fact that he's not presenting or showing any history of these people actually being wrong to begin with. He's just expecting everybody to take his opinion, that we're supposed to speculate or assume that there's a history of these people getting information wrong. Therefore, he's got some reason to get around the genetic fallacy. I don't want to, keep going on with this because there's lots to talk about here. And I know that you want to offer your opinion on this as well. So did you want to screen share it, or did you have something specific you wanted to point out, Antonio?
Oh yeah, let me give me just a sec to prepare my screen share here. Hold on. Now I want to address something specifically. He said about let me see where we at here. Okay. All right. All right. Here we go. All right. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let's screen share. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Now, he gives this commentary here about you not understanding genetic fallacy, and we already read all that. And he talks about this provisional stuff. And my response was this: Steve, it seems to me you are grossly distorting the issue. First of all, there was nothing provisional about what Schuyler said because he did no thorough investigation into former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop's background. You don't spend 36 plus years in pediatric surgery and become the Surgeon General because you are known to be non-credible. What you are saying would have long kept him from becoming the Surgeon General if his credibility was long shot beforehand, or would have ended his career as the general if his credibility went downhill after acquiring that position. Second, there is your personal opinion. Particular sources are not credible. Evolution News, ICRcreation.com, Answers in Genesis, etc. I can give my personal opinion about sources not being credible. Talk Origins, Rational Wiki, No Answers in Genesis, etc. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
There you said probably not correct based, and I had a typo. I said based twice, but anyway. Probably not correct based upon provisional. I don't know if that was my typo or something I copied from him. I don't know. Anyway, it said, third, you said probably not correct based upon provisional reasoning from their historical record of being inaccurate. I mean, actually incorrect. You still have to analyze the argument, information. And then he says, what does he say here? Again, I missed the point. Sure, you can claim any source you want is not credible, but credibility is also determined by experts who do know about topics. AIG and CRI have overwhelming about. I guess he meant to say an overwhelming about of experts who believe they are not credible sources of information, while very, very few that about Talk Origins or many types of scientific journals. The argument is as silly as saying the National Enquirer is a good source of accurate information because you happen to believe in aliens. Schuyler is just saying that Koop is expressing an opinion based upon his bias and not giving credible evidential sources that can be reviewed. Schuyler didn't say what Koop said wasn't true, just that it was biased and gave reasons as to why. And my response here is, you're just repeating yourself, Steve. You're not actually refuting what I said. There are experts in all sorts of fields, and this includes actual experts who do not hold to your view, Steve. There is rarely, if ever at all, a such thing as a truly non-biased source, persons, and or process. As human beings, bias exists in many areas and fields. You need to do more than just simply point out bias, Steve. You are the one missing the point.
We have to keep this in mind, that that's basically what he said. He wasn't saying anything that Steve was saying at all. He was basically saying, well, where do these sources come from? Are you getting this from some sort of what did he say word for word? He didn't say creationist website. He said anti-abortion website, right? Isn't that what he said?
Talking about what now?
He didn't. He said that he was basically questioning you, Skylar, because he was saying, where did this information come from? Did it come from some sort of anti-abortion website?
Basically, he was trying to say that maybe
but the point is,
Coop had pro-life leaning views and worked under a president who was pro-life, Ronald Reagan. Like, that's irrelevant.
Right.
Like, so what?
He didn't say anything that Steve said. That's the point. He said nothing that Steve said.
Right.
He was just basically saying that if it is somebody that agrees with you, Antonio, that therefore, if it originates from somebody who agrees with you, that therefore it must be invalid. That's what he was saying. He pointed out nowhere in any sort of source that they had some sort of history of being incorrect. He did not point to anything like that at all.
Right. There was nothing provisional about what he was doing. Scholar Fiction didn't do any thorough background on C. Everett Koop at all, or anything like that.
He didn't have all he said was basically, in a nutshell, that if it's somebody that's going to be agreeing with you, and he didn't use those exact words, but he was basically talking about anti-abortion websites and is it just an anti-abortion website? He said it somewhere on that level. I don't remember him word for word specifically what he said, but that's pretty much what he said. And he didn't point out in any way, shape, or form that any of these sources or any certain sources have a history of being wrong or being incorrect, right? So he didn't say anything that Steve's saying now. And moreover, Steve didn't point out at all why AIG or any of these creationist websites or any of these abortion places have a history of being wrong as well. He simply used the assertion that they have a history of being wrong and falsely, I mean, it was very clearly falsely equated it to aliens and all that other crap. Well, let's just say, according to his opinion, his subjective feeling about it, he tried to equate it to aliens. But he didn't back up his assertion. He didn't sit over here and prove, okay, well, they do have a history because of X, Y, and Z. This is the reason why it's invalid. He's just basically trying to get around using the genetic fallacy, and in turn, all he's doing is using a genetic fallacy. All he's sitting over here and saying is, here's the sources, here's where this originates from, this is where the source is. He feels that these sources are invalid because of what they stand for, but he doesn't point out and show why they have a history of being invalid. He's just using the assertion that they have a history of being invalid according to his subjective standpoint, and saying because they originate from stances that differ from his own or positions that differ from his own, therefore they are invalid. It's all it does is come around full circle to the genetic fallacy, and he doesn't escape that no matter how hard he tries. And that's what was hilarious about it, because throughout it, I mean, even when we gave him an opportunity to back up his claims, like what I said about showing me how the overwhelming of the majority actually disagree with them, or even just showing where they're wrong, he wasn't able to do it because, one, even if you're going to sit over here and say that the overwhelming majority disagree with the minority, what does that say anything? That doesn't say that the minority are wrong or have a history of being wrong, now does it? So
exactly. And the thing is, man, it's just like I told him, man, you're going to sit up here and talk about what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. You can go ahead and keep going until I get my thought back. I just totally lost my train of thought. But what were you about to say?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just lost my train of thought. I'm gonna get it back in a sec, but you can go on for now.
Yeah, I was just saying that Steve sucks. He didn't offer any points. Yeah, he didn't offer any points. You know, he just the entire thread. I mean, people really need to go read that. Like, it's just backpedaling, shifting the goalposts, trying to play stupid. I mean, uh, come on, what kind of crap do you think this is? If you really think people are stupid? I'm going to make an assertion that look at they just have a history of being wrong, and that's the reason why I disagree with them. Okay, if they got a history of being wrong, then you're going to have to actually back that up, because if you just sit over here and make that assertion, all that is coming off as is you feel that they are having a history of being wrong, right? Because you're obviously an evolutionist, so of course they're going to bring up some assertion that these creationist websites, they're wrong, or they have a history of being wrong because they have views that differ from your own. But when you just make the assertion and you don't connect that gap, you don't prove that point, it just stays an assertion, and that assertion becomes in and of itself a genetic fallacy. And he can't grasp that. He doesn't understand that. Or he might understand that he might actually believe that everybody's an idiot and we can't see past that.
Oh idiocy. Yeah, I got my train of thought back. But basically, what he's sitting up here doing is he's trying to use these experts to say that using the experts that you agree with, but here's the thing. Number one, I got to go back to this point about when he was talking about C. Everett Koop, Surgeon General C. Everett Koop. Now, C. Everett Koop don't become the Surgeon General simply because of some non-credibility he has or a history of non-credibility. If that was the case, then he would have long not, been able to become the Surgeon General. Or if his credibility was shot afterwards, he wouldn't have stayed the Surgeon General. So this idea that he was, had this sort of bias about himself, and, that could have been potential evidence that he said something which was not credible, it's just a bunch of garbage. And here's the thing, man. Here's what people like Steve McGray does. The first thing he did was he tried to make this provisional argument, which he failed on, and then he'll say things like people with a college education disagree with you, and then you'll find people with a college education who disagree with him, and then he'll move the goalposts and then try to make an ad populum fallacy. So you'll deal with him on one thing, and then he'll move somewhere else. And then he'll say something like, well, that just means that C. Everett Koop was just biased, right? But here's the thing. We are all human beings. There's not a single human being on this earth who isn't biased, all right? And there's rarely a such thing, if ever at all, a truly non-biased source, persons, and or process. That's just a product of being a human being. You need to do more than point out bias. So every time you make him look wrong on one point, you make him look wrong on a provisional point, and then he'll move somewhere else, and then he'll move to somewhere like bias. You make him look wrong on that, and then he'll just keep on moving to somewhere else, and then he'll move somewhere else. Like, who in this general community agrees with you guys? As if that's some sort of point. And here's the thing: this community in YouTube in general is dominated by atheists, non-believers, people who are hostile generally to design and creationism. You finding, or happen to find in a majority of people who agree with you makes absolutely no freaking difference, because we're on a social media platform in which it's basically flooded with people who agree with you. So that's not an argument. That's basically like me involving myself in a church and finding people who agree with my theological views and saying, well, look how many people agree with my theological views.
Exactly. That's just a good way of putting it. So I want you guys to see where this ended, because when we say that he was straight refuted on this point and just did nothing but shift the goalposts and backpedal, we really mean what we're saying. Here's how it basically ended between the two of us. Steve goes about goes about posturing instead. Instead of backing up his claims, he goes about posturing, right? And I point this out to him. You're getting off topic, and nothing that you said matters if it's true. I have spoken to them all, including you, and hundreds to thousands of people. Hundreds to thousands of people have seen you fall down a flight of stairs. All you're doing is posturing to distract the fact you have no substance. So, going all the way back, he should have been able to back up his points that he brought up from the beginning about it not being a genetic fallacy. He should have been able to back up his assertion about there being an overwhelming majority, 99.7% of the scientific community actually agreeing with him or disagreeing with Tompkins' work, or at the very least provide 10 scientists. I mean, out of the 7 to 8 to 9 million scientists that are actually out there active in peer review, at least 10 geneticists or, individuals who might even work in the field of bioinformatics, I'd even grant that would all disagree with him, that have more qualifications than him. He's done a lot of work. He's not just like some average scientist. He's published over 56 or 57 articles in peer-reviewed mainstream journals, and another 17 articles published and reviewed by scientists within the Christian community. Now, to sit over here and play that game, because if you was going to go in that direction, well, they're being peer reviewed by Christians or by scientists that are within that have the same viewpoint as him. That's going to fail miserably, because obviously most evolutionists that published articles or that go through that peer review the articles that are being published by other evolutionists, they are evolutionists as well. So I mean, I can't see him going in that direction. Then again, it is Steve. He might go again another fallacious route, but he didn't do it. He wasn't able to show why anything that Antonio said was fallacious. He wasn't able to show in any single way any of his claims were being true. He wasn't able to back anything that he set up, and I think that hopefully people can understand why it is that I think we need to stop taking him seriously, man. It came all the way down to him having to posture and puff out his chest because he didn't have anything to say. He couldn't back up his claims. And yeah, what do you got to say on this, Antonio?
Well, Steve says right here that CRISPR gave us a list of 67 scientists that disagree with Tompkins. But then again, didn't you just say that we're in his field? Or
wait a minute, let me see that list. Let me see that list. Let me see that list. Where's that list at?
Apparently, he posted it in a comment somewhere.
I don't want to just see. I don't want to see just any average list of scientists either. Okay, and I want to see. Remember what the claim was? The claim was that these people were more qualified than him, and I asked him. Let's go back.
Equally or more, at least equally or more qualified. It should be that.
Well, let me go back up to the. Let me go back up and screen share specifically what it was that I said. Okay, I'm trying to find it. Okay, prove it, I said. Show me exact quotes from at least 10 geneticists with more published articles than Tompkins. Should be an easy task. So that was the specific claim. I'm going to screen share it so that people can see it. Okay, guys? Send it to everyone. Okay, can you see what I'm screen sharing? You can see what I'm screen sharing, right, Antonio?
Oh yeah.
So prove it. Show me exact quotes from at least 10 geneticists with more published articles than Tompkins. It should be an easy task. Let's see if he commented, if he left a. Okay, let's see here. How about the 67 authors of the 2005 paper on chimpanzee genome sequence, PhD. They all agree that it is a fusion event. Human chromosome number 2 resulted from a fusion of two ancestral chromosomes that remain the chimpanzee lineage from chromosome 2A and 2B. So where's his link for this? Chimpanzees. Actually, ask him to copy and paste the link for that. Ask him to copy and paste the link for that. Do you have him there with you now? What's his name?
Still up for debate today. Well, they might say otherwise, but in that email you had with Tompkins a while back, it didn't seem like it was an open and shut case by any means.
Yeah, well, he said this is a 2005 paper as well. But let's go back to the original claim. He's saying that it's from 2005, and he's claiming that there was 67, right? So let's go back up to the original claim, the original question.
Well, what I'm saying is that Tompkins would have known about these 65 people, and it would have been an open and shut case in 2005 if it was really that much of a refutation.
Well, obviously, I mean, this predates 2005. But the question isn't whether or not there is more, like there's more people that might disagree. The question isn't necessarily that he's going to be able to find a lot of different people that are going to disagree, right? Because there's like I said, 8 to 9 million people who are active in peer review, right? The question is if he can find the 10 geneticists that have more qualifications than him that can disagree with it. Because as earlier, let me go back earlier to the post actually that I sent to him.
I guess it does make sense out of these thousands upon thousands and many more scientists. There should be at least 10 geneticists in there that would be able to disagree.
Yeah, he knows what I'm getting at anyways, because he's I commented to him before. I think this is it. I don't know. I can't find it. See if he sent me the link. All right. I need to go check my messages. So let me see if they send me the link through this.
Static is back.
Mm-hmm. Nope, they're not sending me the link. Come on, and if you're able to comment in the side chat, Steve, then have him send me the link, or you send me the link. I don't know, man. I guess they're going to ignore that because they don't want me to investigate that claim. Because if we go back to the screen and screen share the original question that I sent to him, I think we're going to see why. Let me go back over here. Screen share this to the original claim or the original challenge to him. Where is it at? Okay, so I said right here, he said there's a huge disproportionate degree of experts who would 100% disagree with him. I said, prove it. Show me the exact quotes from at least 10 geneticists with more published articles than Tompkins. Should be an easy task. So let's see if we can see what the exact claims are of these people, and if they actually have more qualifications than Tompkins. All right, I'm checking my messages too to see if they've sent me any messages, and they didn't send me any message. Let me go to my other account. No, I think they're going to ignore my challenge. Okay, so what they gave me was basically a 2005 paper, or they referenced some sort of 2005 paper that they didn't give me a link to, that they're claiming where 67 scientists all agreed with their claim. Honestly, that might be true, might not be true. I don't know. They haven't confirmed that yet. But we need to see if they also have more qualifications than Tompkins, because that's what his claim was, that they have more qualifications than him. Actually, his original claim earlier up above, if we actually read through it, 99.7% of the scientists, he says, disagree with Tompkins. That's an unfounded assertion. Obviously, he's going to be able to find 67 people that are going to disagree with them, but obviously not the overwhelming majority disagree with Tompkins. He's going to have to actually back that up. How are you going to be able to prove that if only a couple of thousand people have actually been polled, and there are 8 to 9 million scientists out there active in peer review? Now, I would like for him to actually show somebody that's more qualified, at least 10 people that are more qualified than Tompkins, that are going to disagree with Tompkins' work. Because remember what Tompkins' work is actually about. Tompkins' work has to do with a transcription factor binding region that crosses the chromosome 2 fusion site. You wouldn't expect to find any functionality where there was supposed to be telomeres, because telomeres are not expected to be able to do something like that. There's also a lot of other functionality going on across that site as well. So if there's a lot of geneticists, at least 10 geneticists that disagree with Tompkins' work, that's his work specifically, well then, let's see what you got, man. I kind of think we've been on this point for a while. I don't think that they're going to be sending me a link over that. Do you have anything you want to say on this, man? Because I think we've already established it thus far, man. He's not shown at all in any sort of way why he's right about Schuyler not committing the genetic fallacy. Not Tompkins. Schuyler obviously didn't say anything that Steve said. Steve, even what he said, that was just an assertion that these different places, like these creationist websites, or these sources that might be talking about aliens or whatever, he didn't prove any of those assertions. He didn't show that they have a history of being wrong, basically, right? At least what's relevant right here, the creationist websites or these anti-abortionist websites. He didn't show any of that. He just made an assertion, and because they're always wrong, then basically it's not a genetic fallacy. But that's pretty much what everybody does when they're committing the genetic fallacy. Everybody approaches it from the standpoint to where they're disagreeing with the opposition and having personal opinions or feelings about the opposition. So trying to say, well, because of where this source is from, because of where this originates, therefore it's invalid, or therefore it is valid. So all he did was commit the genetic fallacy by making the statement or typing out what he typed. I'm indicating that, well, knowing Steve, he probably didn't understand the genetic fallacy. I'm betting he probably Googled that before he started that discussion and thought it was going to fly. And at the end of all that, when we actually asked him to back up his claims, he wasn't able to actually back up any of his claims. He started posturing, talking about how people in his community, they're educated or they have some sort of understanding on this topic. And let's just say that, like I said earlier, I brought it up earlier inside of the Hangout. Let's just say that it was true that 99.7% of all the scientists actually disagreed with Tompkins. Let's just assume that that was all true. Screw everything that I said. Let's just assume that his assertion said that he said was true. That doesn't show that the minority is incorrect because the majority believes something or agree with something. That doesn't show that at all. You don't say, well, we are the majority, this is the minority, therefore, because it's the minority, therefore, because it's the minority, therefore, it's invalid. It doesn't work that way. Science has a history of turning around the norm of what people thought of at the time, because the minority came out and turned over what was consistently or generally thought to be true. And that's, popped up all over history. So he didn't say anything. I mean, the entire time he was pretty much wasting our time, didn't understand the genetic fallacy, didn't get around the fact that he himself was committing the genetic fallacy as he was making his assertions, and even wasn't able to back up his claim of many more people that have more qualifications than Tompkins disagree with Tompkins as well. So I don't really even know where we can continue from this. If you got something you want to say on it, I'll give you the floor, man.
Yeah, man, what it basically comes down to is goalpost moving. That's pretty much the thing with Steve McRae, is goalpost moving.
That's exactly what I'm glad you said that. He shifted the goalposts. That's what the entire hangout, that the entire discussion was over. He was shifting the goalposts.
And I'll explain how. The first thing is, he talked about this whole thing about like a provisional thing, and he gets refuted on that. Then he'll bring up something else, like bias in experts. He'll get refuted on that. And then he'll bring up something else, like experts or people in this community who do not agree. He'll get refuted on something else. And he keep moving the goalposts here and there. That's what he does. He endlessly moves the goalposts instead of dealing with the relevant arguments. Like, if you and you got to note this one thing. He said that he wasn't saying that Coop was incorrect, but merely that Coop, C. Everett Koop, the Surgeon General, was biased. If you wasn't saying that that didn't mean that he was incorrect, then why would you bring that up? Why would you bring up bias? Because here's the thing, you would not have brought up that point if it was moot. If you're not saying, well, that don't mean he was incorrect, but you clearly brought up that point to give weight to the possibility he may have been incorrect. You brought that point up to give weight to what you were saying. If you knew it doesn't actually give weight to what you're saying, then you wouldn't bring that up as if you truly believed the dude was incorrect. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have brought it up as if you didn't think it gave weight to your point. And when we made him look ridiculous on the zygote thing, and people in his circles who disagreed with him and agreed with what we were saying.
That was hilarious.
And then he was like, well, it was two people who agreed with you.
We had to correct him. The two of us had to correct him before anybody else actually even heard of it, man. That was when your channel was much smaller. I think you only had like 17 subscribers at the time, 10 subscribers at the time. Yeah. So, I mean, we corrected on that to, months and months and months before anybody even heard about this nonsense he was spewing. It's kind of funny that Arcane's had his chance with him, and he's just made a fool out of him. Nephilim Free, we all seen how that went. If anybody goes to my channel and sees really the only discussion where the two of us had, where he was actually in my room, see how that went for him. That was freaking hilarious. And then fallacy after fallacy. And then afterwards, he actually made a video on his channel and doubled down on the statements that he was actually making there, too. I mean, it's funny, man. And I'm looking at him in the comment section right now. He said, let me see what he said. He said, let's play how many fallacies can a single person get wrong? What did we say? We said that, well, the genetic fallacy is basically when somebody stands by, when somebody tries to say that a position or an idea is wrong or invalid, or it could be actually correct, right? or correct based on where it
main,
originates from or where the source
but mainly
comes
what
from.
they do is they try to look for a perceived defect in the origin, the person, place, or thing to discredit said information or arguments.
Right. Right. So is that incorrect? That's basically what we've been talking about the entire time. And how and where a belief originates or view originates does not mean that it's invalid or correct. And this is the approach that you're taking. You're trying to say something else, but as you try to say something else, you fail. You only make the assertion that, well, the history shows that they are invalid. The history shows that they've been incorrect. The history shows this, that, or the other, but you don't go about showing that history. You just make an assertion that's in line with your position as an evolutionist.
There was no history.
And in turn, as he does that, right? In turn, as he does that, he exposes the fact that he doesn't know or understand the genetic fallacy.
Right, and there was no history even shown on former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop even being incorrect about the statements he were making. There was no historical data on the man's background presented at all by scholar fiction in that discussion. Scholar fiction didn't even know about that quote before I told him. And then
even if he's trying to sit over here and say, even if he's trying to say that Schuyler's position was, well, Antonio, you could be getting it from an invalid source or something like that. He didn't expound on that. He didn't say anything, just to say that, well, if it's an abortionist website or somebody that's going to agree with you, right? That's all he said.
He made clear emphasis on either C. Everett Koop being pro-life or him having associations with a pro-life president. He made heavy, and I mean heavy emphasis on the pro-life point. He was making heavy emphasis on that to use that as weight for his argument. He was clearly making a genetic fallacy, because if he wasn't saying, well, that doesn't mean he's wrong, then there would be no reason for him to bring that up. You don't bring up a moot point that doesn't prove your position. If he knows that doesn't mean that he was incorrect, then you don't bring it up because it was a moot point. But why would you bring up a moot point if it doesn't add any weight to your argument? Why would you bring it up?
Just to show how clueless the community is here online, because this is actually one of the main reasons why I'm talking about this. I'm actually going to be doing a video over this DNA and water thing, but I want to point something out before I get into that right now. You see what this guy says? Crow many clouds. Zoom in a little bit more if I can, but you guys can see better. So this guy says, I've Googled it, and I know they don't understand it. He's doing the same thing that you see pretty much every other secular-minded evolutionist atheist does. They side with the opposition regardless of if the opposition is wrong, and in turn, they lie when they do so. Or they display the fact that if they went and looked up the information, they didn't understand it and they were actually ignorant. This is what always happens in our community. Now, I want to point something out here that actually happened in the original thread here. Now, this happens all the time. This is phony Beatlemaniacs that actually made this mistake. See here, phony Beatlemaniacs.
What it comes down to is these are just dudes on the internet who found people to actually challenge their views, and they don't like it. That's what it comes down to, because they're basically saying, or you're educated if you agree with us, or you're showing that you're willing to learn things, but only if you agree with us. That's what it comes down to. Either you're uneducated if you disagree with us, or at the very least, if you are educated but you disagree with us, then that shows that you're being blinded by bias. It doesn't matter whether we're educated or not. If you disagree with them, they're going to move the goalpost to something else.
Here's what he said, and I got a quote from him right now. I can't find it. He might have deleted it. I don't know, but I have a quote from him right here. It says, Ronnie still thinks that DNA dissolves in water, which would mean we would literally melt in a bath. I'm going to let everybody know this right now. A bunch of other literally say the same thing, right? Does DNA dissolve in water? Molecules are also polar because the negatively charged phosphate group PO3, along with the sugar phosphate backbone. Because of this, DNA and RNA can easily dissolve in water, right? So go back to the statement that he made. Ronnie still thinks DNA can dissolve in water, which means it would literally melt in a bath. That's not what it means. What does dissolve mean? To close let me zoom in. I can't even see this. With a reference to a solid becomes or causes to become incorporated into a liquid as to form a solution. So it's going to dissolve. Now, that wasn't originally what I was going to show. I think I was going to show him something else. But so he was just shown to be wrong right there, right? He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what dissolve means. DNA does dissolve. And that doesn't mean that it's literally going to melt in a bath. I've explained this before in the past. You got salts that are inside of the cytosol of the cell that can also help to neutralize charges. You've got, even if you want to not consider that or look at it from that angle, you have different proteins and so on that help to keep DNA in shape. Obviously, been talked about a lot. The state of the water actually helps to influence how whether or not DNA will dissolve or break apart, I should sit over here and say, or maybe undergo some sort of hydrolysis reaction, anything like that. So the state of the water was actually important right here, but that's not the main point. The main point is that he doesn't understand and didn't even know what he was criticizing. Ronnie still thinks that DNA dissolves in water, which would mean we would literally melt in a bath. He didn't know that DNA does dissolve in water. He didn't understand where the disagreements actually were. Now, Steve spotted that. I think he spotted it. And then well, he basically doubled down, basically. And I don't see his comments here anymore. So either comments are removed or something. But clearly the guy didn't know what he was talking about. And Steve pointed it out, actually. He pointed, well, that was a typo. That wasn't a typo. Anybody who reads what he said, that was not a typo. Go back up so that people can see specifically what he said again. That was not a typo at all.
But it's almost as if they don't even want us. Go ahead.
So Ronnie still, yeah. So he says that Ronnie still thinks that DNA dissolves in water, which would mean we would literally melt in a bath. This moron here, Steve, I'm sorry, he really thinks that we're going to believe that that statement that he made was a typo. Steve thinks that we're going to think that statement that Phony Beetle Maniac said was a typo because of what I pointed out earlier. You're freaking clueless, bro, I told him. It's actually funny. The only education any of you seem to have is what you've heard the dissenters of me have said. You don't even know what they say, which is epic. I've been coming across these types of remarks a lot. And that's all what I'm trying to say right now. The same guy over here in his comment section, he's doing the same thing that Phony Beetle Maniacs does and everybody else does in our community. They don't even know about the topic 90% of the time. But all they do is if they see Steve say something, if they see Fiona say something, if they see the Amazing Atheist say something, anybody on YouTube that's pretty much an atheist or a secular-minded person, they just agree with them. They agree with them. And that's the problem that I see here, man. It's just, they're clueless. And a lot of these people, they're dingbats. They don't think. It's like they can't process information. If they were actually following that little discussion, which I'm making a video about it, there was a discussion that I had actually before the discussion that I had with Dragnoct on another channel, where the original claim actually had to do with DNA breaking down to its constituent parts. The original claim didn't have anything to do with dissolving. Dissolving was the second topic that we actually got into, which I still hold my ground on. I think that it was actually confirmed with ionic compounds and covalent compounds that they break apart differently. The covalent compounds will either come apart in clusters or possibly split down the middle, and ionic compounds will be coming apart by the atom. So they're breaking apart. With hydrolysis reactions, things are breaking apart, but they're breaking apart in a more specific and a more thorough manner. So there's breaking apart going down all the way across the board with dissolving, but that wasn't the original claim. Whether you want to, because this isn't a scientific issue. A lot of people don't realize this. This isn't a scientific issue. What the issue is a game. It's a word game. It's all it has to do with what is being said about degrading and dissolving. Everything is breaking down across the board, except for with covalent compounds. I'm going to have to admit that I think that we're all going to have to admit that it breaks down, but it breaks down different than ionic compounds break down. So there's still a breaking down going on across the board, but that wasn't the original claim at all. The original claim had to do with it breaking down to its constituent parts. This topic segued into dissolving and these other topics. And originally it was talked about heat or the temperature and how this would influence the DNA in water. But all of these people who are commenting, they don't understand this. They don't even realize this. And another thread that actually followed later on, some clueless fool was actually when we were talking about the hydrolysis reaction, the paper that Jade and Fiona got into, he started getting into nuclease free water and nuclease water, which is actually different than a hydrolysis reaction. The hydrolysis reaction in this paper had to do with no nuclease or nuclease-free water. That topic was not even up for debate here. That's something that both myself and Fiona actually agree with. That had nothing to do with the topic. It only had to do with the heat and the pressure of the heat of the water, the state of the water, and how that influenced the individual bonds. And that individual, he didn't seem to understand it either. So I think that this is important, man. I mean, I think that it's important to show how the people in our community, they don't really offer anything. They don't say anything. As a matter of fact, they fail almost every single time they open their mouth, or they attempt to try to criticize us almost every single time. And that was very evident when we're seeing this reaction from him under your video. And it's kind of alarming to me, the fact that we can have somebody like Steve make so many mistakes. I mean, just be wrong all the time. I mean, everybody's bent that clown over their knee. I don't know if you've ever actually seen his discussion with Drunken, what's his name? Didi. I'm just going to call him Didi. I know he's got a couple of different channels. Yeah. On Hawkeye's channel, I mean, he did horrible. I mean, he got made a fool of. And unfortunately, man, these people that are in our community, man, but I think it's about time that even, I can't speak for you, Antonio, but I think that maybe it would be better not to even get yourself involved with this guy. I think that anybody who's listening to me that is a Christian, just
I'm not. Dude, seriously.
Right, and everybody who's listening to me too. I mean, look at what I've had to deal with from this clown, man. Like, seriously, everybody listening, look at the people that I've had to deal with within this little community. Have you seen anything offered? If anybody goes and watches the discussion that happened previous to this discussion that we were in just now, Steve was in there for a brief amount of time, shortly before I had to go to work. And J.D. Kane was in there. I think a couple of other people were there as well. And J.D. Kane makes this assertion towards me. You get this. I don't know what I'm talking about. Everybody else has proven me to be wrong. Why don't I admit that I'm wrong? Then I asked him, one of the things that we were talking about was Le Chatelier's principle. He said, after I asked him about that, do you know what that actually is? He responded to me and said, no, I don't understand that. I don't know what it's about. Okay, how are you going to tell me that I've been shown wrong about this topic? I've been shown to be wrong about this topic when you don't know what the topic's about. You expect me to take your statement seriously? And these types of reactions, multiply that by a couple of hundred, give you thousands of people here online that are making the same type of idiotic remarks on various different topics. Doesn't matter who it actually has to do with in this community. It could be with myself and you, or it could be with Matt Slick or Bible Thumping Wingnut. The community here that we are forced to deal with, unfortunately, It doesn't matter what knowledge we have. It doesn't matter what knowledge they have. It doesn't matter what the truth is in this little community, or the truth is on any topic whatsoever. The truth is, and what actually matters to these people, is always go along with the person who is common to the cause. That is the position that a lot of these people have. It's not about looking into the information. It's to always go with the person that is common to the cause, regardless of how wrong they are, and regardless of how right we are. Disagree with us. Don't give the satisfaction, and stick together. That's what they're doing.
That's it. That's what it comes down to, man. And what it also comes down to is, the bottom line is, we're outnumbered here on the internet, on YouTube, on G+. There's an overwhelming majority of them and a ridiculous minority of us. This is the reason why these people conduct themselves in a gang-like mentality. Like, when it's one of us exchanging comments with someone on their side, then you have another one jump into the middle who's looking at it, and then you have two more jump in. This is how these people operate. So it's, a combination of a number of different things. It's, just this gang-like mentality. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, as we said tonight, with this goalpost movie that Steve McRae did, he didn't want to stick on the topic of a genetic fallacy, so he would constantly move the goalpost. And he'll do things like, when we corrected him on the zygote thing, we'll point out to some of his own people who would disagree with him, and then he'll say, well, you didn't correct me. You had two people that were educated on this topic who agreed with you. And 95% of people agreed with him. And he'll admit that the majority of people agreeing with him doesn't make him correct, but just point that out as a statistical reality.
Yeah.
The statistical reality does not add weight to your argument. It only means this amount of people agree with you. That doesn't mean you're right. But he does it to add weight to his argument, while admitting at the same time it doesn't add weight to his argument.
And we need to point something out really, really important, because when everybody started pointing out that Steve was wrong, and Sam the scientist and people in his own community started coming against him, we need to keep one important point in mind right here. One important point. These people didn't know that Antonio and I had this discussion with him months and months earlier, right around or before this period of time where Steve and I started having this drama. We didn't really have an issue with each other. I actually had Steve in my room a long time ago, over a year ago, when I had Kent Hovine on my other channel. And it was good discussion. I didn't really have any beef with Steve at the time, but around this time, this is when we corrected him. So people didn't know about this refutation that we actually gave him. And I think that, that's one of the reasons why a lot of the people in our community, they went against it, because had they have known that we were actually making this argument, that we were the one that were actually correcting Steve, they probably would have stayed silent about it, or at least done it on the down low, if you get what I mean. Because that's the history. That's the history that's happened for a long time. I mean, look at Sam the scientist, the guy that he referenced that has his degree in or works in bioinformatics. When I had to confront the fact that he was wrong, that dude that's got the master's, I think he's got a master's. I don't know what his specific credentials are. That doesn't even matter. But when I had to confront the fact that he was wrong, and he had to admit that he was wrong live, he had to put a video out and confront and expose the fact that I was right. You see the reactions of people in the comments section. I mean, it's the same thing. They didn't even care. I mean, they actually kept on trying to get on my case afterwards. And there was hundreds to thousands of people who were watching our interaction before he admitted that he was right as well. He admitted that he was wrong as well. And they were all agreeing with him. Some of these people supposedly have degrees, right? Why didn't they point out that he was wrong? Exactly. Think about that for a second. It's not like one or two people, right? It's not like even 4 or 5 people. There are hundreds to thousands of people between all of our videos that watch this, and they didn't at all confront the fact that he was wrong, didn't call him out on anything. And after he admitted that he was wrong, they showed no negativity towards that. They still tried to get on my case and find a way to twist it at me for why he was actually wrong. Now, I respect him for at least coming out and having the integrity to admit that he was wrong and that I was right on this particular area. But if he hadn't have done that and would have taken the approach that Fiona had done right now, like she's doing with this DNA and water little situation, where she hears me talking about it and actually makes posts about how I'm talking about DNA breaking down to its constituent parts, and then waits a year later to bring up the fact that DNA breaks down to its constituent parts and water where it's heated up. It's, another thing is, like, she keeps on bringing up this issue of 97 degrees Celsius, right, and PCR reactions. We're talking about the early Earth, abiogenesis. That temperature is irrelevant. The temperature there would be 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit to about 90 to 70 degrees Celsius, anywhere between that period of time. So when you are looking at it in reality, plus take into consideration the seasons and all of the other elements, like these volcanic gassy scenarios, it doesn't matter how many times you keep on repeating 97 degrees Celsius. Who cares about that? And this bond that's supposed to last 33 million years, because all of the other bonds are supposed to break apart much, much earlier. And that bond is only supposed to last 33 million years at 70 degrees Celsius. The article clearly says that as the temperature increases over time, or not even over time, just as it increases, the bonds are going to start to break apart faster and much more rapidly. So if it was going to last 33 million years, it might only last a couple of years. The other bonds will break apart in a matter of a couple of days to a couple of hours to a couple of seconds, depending on the temperature of the heat. So we're going from about 90 degrees Celsius to 70 degrees Celsius, which would be about 100 degrees to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. We're compounding the problem far, far more than it already actually is. So this is the point here. I mean, when we hear Fiona, what do you hear her do? She dodges that point. She works around that point. She ignores it. And we see in our community thousands of people being misled, or thousands of people supporting misinformation. It's the same. This would have been the same thing with Sam. The only difference is that she was smart and decided to stay silent about her refutation, and is dodging every point that she knows is a refutation to her. Because she doesn't want to appear to be wrong. She knows that how it's gonna make her look if she comes out and she admits that she's wrong after all of this fighting me for this last year and a half. And I don't know, it's just interesting to me. And that's the reason why I've learned, look, at these people, they lie and they twist information, and they're not in it to try to learn the truth or try to be interested in the truth or look into anything. They think they've got things already figured out. And if somebody like me, a lowly nobody, comes over and confronts the fact that they're wrong, and anybody can sit back and look at the discussion, what predates all of this. DNA is going to break down to its constituent parts. Later on, she brings an article, shifts the topic to the temperature, which was I brought up to her originally, and says, well, yeah, they're going to break down, but they're going to last a long time at 70 degrees Celsius, ignores where the article is talking about the different temperature variants, and try to jump at it from that angle. You know why? Because she's dishonest. And you know why the people in our community aren't pointing this out? Because the people in our community are not interested in it at all. They don't care about the truth.
Yeah, man. This is like you said, it's about what aligns with the cause. Now, it's basically like they don't want to even be challenged at all, because if you disagree with them, you're not educated. Or, you know what, it's not even about whether you're educated or not, because you find people who are educated or college educated, like they say, and people who are college educated who disagree with them, then they'll just move the goalposts to something else. Like, yes, we'll acknowledge that you are college educated, but you have a greater number of other college educated people who disagree with you. They'll move the goalposts if it counters the cause. So it's not about whether you educated or not, or whether you fit a certain thing that they find credible. It's about what is contradictory to their paradigm, what's contradictory to their cause. And it's basically as if they don't want to be challenged at all. they don't want to find people who disagree with them. It's basically like what that is, because if they do find that have a huge problem, and then you just gotta basically agree with them, otherwise you're stupid, basically. And then they act all clicky like when they say things like, "Oh, Antonio, we don't invite you to our hangouts anymore because you've demonstrated that you just don't want to learn. We've lost all respect for you and whatnot."
You know what they mean by that?
What?
You know what they mean? No, you know what they mean by that though? That you've demonstrated that you don't want to learn. You've demonstrated to think for yourself, and you disagree with them. That's what it is. You're not part of the clique. You're not part of their community. So now they're hating on you. They hate you. They hate anybody who stands against them and that they don't agree with them. And that's what they can see in you. They can see that you're somebody who can stand on your own. You don't need anybody to think for yourself. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I mean, you listen to some of these other people in their community. I'm not even going to start mentioning names because I don't want to offend anybody, but some of these other people in their community that call themselves Christians, every time we get into a room and we talk with these people, they do a very lousy and they do a very bad job. I'm just going to put it like that. They don't seem to be able to think for themselves. They can only go through what it seems like they've heard from these people in their community. And I think that you've demonstrated that, you know about this stuff. You can defend yourself. You're not some idiot. You can defend yourself. You've demonstrated it clearly with Skylar, man. That was epic. I mean, you pointed that guy out to be, committing nothing but ad homs, genetic fallacies, and so on. He wasn't able to make any points, and you did it respectfully, very respectfully. So I mean, that's the reason why he felt the need to take that video and put it on his channel, because he, I don't know, maybe was seeking some sort of confirmation or something. But like I said, I'm going to be doing a commentary on my other channel on this little discussion with Skylar. I just haven't been able to get around and do it. I have 2 other videos that I had actually been working on already that I had uploaded on my channel, but I am going to be putting up a commentary of that video on my channel. It's not going to be about drama. Like I said, my other channel, it doesn't have anything to do with drama anymore. I'm avoiding all drama. It's going to only have to do with content. But this channel right here, anything that's going on in the community or something that pertains to drama has to be talked about. This is the channel where it's going to be talked about. I'm going to be actually putting up a video over this DNA and water situation, for example, just so that I can archive what has happened over the course of time, because I don't want it to be forgotten. I want people to be able to look back on this, see how people have responded, so that people can see. Doesn't matter what the truth is. People don't care. It doesn't. All these people who say that they just want the evidence, they just disbelieve or have a lack of belief because of a lack of evidence. This video is going to help demonstrate and confirm that even when evidence is directly given, and even when points are directly refuted, word for word, directly refuted and directly confirmed, they still don't care, and they still try to make excuses. They go back in different directions and they deflect. That's what they do.
Now, let me show you live right here, right now, just how many pseudo intellectuals we have here online. I'm about to screen share you a comment that was just left on my page recently by the doctor. Now, okay, he says Antonio is mistaken about what the genetic fallacy refers to, as well as what he believes to be an example of the genetic fallacy. The genetic fallacy is not simply dismissing or discrediting an argument based on its origin. Rather, it is endorsing or condemning an idea due to the historical use or origin of said idea if the history or origin is irrelevant to the present use or context. That means saying like there's no instance, blah, 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 blah. That is incorrect. That is absolutely just nonsensical. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's look at what.
Well, these people are. Let me note something right here. I've seen the doctor around, and the doctor is always commenting under his videos, Steve's videos, and around these different hangouts. So he's obviously doing the same thing that I said he was going to do. He's just going with the norm. These people who stick around in their communities, it doesn't matter what they say or do. They're just agreeing with them. They'll just speak out of their butt cheeks not know what they're talking about or try to twist things, and they'll actually think it's going to fly.
Right.
That's why. That's why.
It's sitting right here. A genetic fallacy is a line of reasoning in which a perceived defect in the origin of a claim or thing is taken to be evidence that discredits the claim or thing itself. That's exactly what I just said.
Yep.
And he tried to distort the issue and purposely overcomplicate it to something that it was not. And I'll even go further along. Let's play this video by a philosopher. And if they discredit him, they'll be committing the genetic fallacy again. But let's see what a philosopher says about what the genetic fallacy is.
All right. I'm going to increase your volume so it plays it right, okay?
All right, sweet.
Hey, you know what, this whole Christian thing, it's just a fluke. Suppose somebody was born in Saudi Arabia, they would be a Muslim by nature before they were born.
Yes, that's very true. But to think that that somehow invalidates a person's Christian belief is a textbook example of a logical fallacy called the genetic fallacy. The genetic fallacy is trying to invalidate a position by showing how a person came to hold it. And that's obviously an invalid way of reasoning. A person might come to hold a belief for any number of reasons, some of them inadequate, but that doesn't show that the belief itself is false. So, for example, if you had been born in ancient Greece, you probably would have believed that the earth is flat and perhaps that the sun goes around the earth. But does that mean that your belief that the earth is round and that it goes around the sun is therefore unjustified or false? Well, obviously not. You cannot invalidate a belief simply by showing how a person came to hold it. That is to commit the genetic fallacy.
Oh man, that was a great video, man.
Yeah, just what I said. Like, it's about looking at the origin of where something comes from and then trying to invalidate it based on said origin. He completely just distorted the issue into something that had nothing to do with what the genetic fallacy is.
And here's the sad part about it, man. After this hangout, they'll be talking about it in some other hangouts or some sort of post, and just say, no, you're wrong. That's going to be pretty much their response. So we don't understand philosophy. We don't understand the genetic fallacy. We just get it wrong. Difference is that we're saying word for word what actually philosophers are saying on the particular topic. So there's no way out of this for them, man. I don't know how they can actually
these people
get out of this.
I'm going to just be quite frank. These people are a bunch of pseudo-intellectual jokes. They're not that good at all.
They're not. They really aren't. They're just loud and they talk trash about us, man. That's all they do. Like I said, they talk about us as we talk about actual substance. A lot of the times they're actually learning through us, I notice. You know, a lot of the times they're actually learning through us. And that's actually something that I've discovered with a lot of different topics. But I don't know. Do you want to open this hangout or you want to have the hangout? I don't think we have anything else to say on this.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's open the hangout.
Okay, but let me make some rules really quick before I open the hangout.
Don't send the link out directly because the sniping issue is back. And knowing some butthurt people out there, they might mess around and snipe the hangout.
Right. Well, let me pull up my my channel because I'm actually at my True Empiricism account right now. Okay. Messages. All right, so if you guys want to come in, what you guys have to do is go to my channel, click on my little icon, click on the About section, and then send me a message requesting to come in and have a discussion with me or to get the link, okay? If you send me a message, I will directly send you the link so that you can come in. Here's the rules: no name calling, no cursing at anybody, and stay on top, okay? This discussion has to do with this little issue of the genetic fallacy and the discussion that Skylar had. So stay on that particular topic as well, because if we start getting on all sorts of different topics, then, well, it's not what the Hangout's intended for. So if if you guys want to come in, just send me a message. I'll wait here for about 15 minutes or so. If I don't get a message for anybody that wants to come in, then I'll end the hangout.
Yeah, I think we need to get, well, not necessarily, but it would help if more people who were actually more in line with our views actually participated in the great debate. Because, I mean, it always helps to have, extra helping hands in the discussion. I know they're not going to be able to really deal with what we're saying anyway, but just that extra help is always beneficial. But that's what they got that we don't here online, because on YouTube in general, it's flooded with atheists, non-believers, people who are hostile to intelligent design and or creation. These people literally flood YouTube. So it's no wonder, or people who are pro-abortion or claim to be pro-choice or whatever you want to say, these people flood YouTube. So of course, we're going to be coming under, extreme opposition by the overall majority of people who flood this particular medium.
Exactly. And that's the reason why a lot of people don't realize this, but the reason why I've decided to draw my attention away from them on my other channel, because the goal is not to speak to these people anymore. I don't think that they can be talked to. When you got to lie and you got to make things up and take people out of context, where it's literally coming down to where people are taking a video of mine, removing sections that they don't prefer to be in the video because it might confirm my point, and only paying attention to a 30-second or 2-minute clip of when I'm speaking, then that shows that they're not in it to try to hear me and have an adult discussion with me. That shows that they're trying to find a way to discredit me because I have views that they don't want to hear. So they're not even listening. They're trying to zone in on something that I might say to try to discredit me because they're trying to have people have a certain impression. That's what that tells me. The goal isn't to speak to those people that are going to be playing those games. The goal is to try to reach other Christians to come in here so that we amplify. We get more and more people in our community to start fighting back against the things that they're doing. And I've had this happen so many times, man. I mean, the equivalent of what these people are doing, it's not just one person. I know that people, when they hear me making the statements, that it might have to do with one person, like Steve or maybe somebody else in our community. But it actually happens with a lot of different people. There are people who take whole hangouts of mine, upload them, but remove the sections where there's actually context available, or gives context and it connects certain dots out of the hangouts because they want people to think of things a certain way about what I say. The equivalent of what they do a lot of the times is, well, for example, what if I were to say, well, 2 + 2 is 5? I mean 4. Oh, that doesn't matter that you said 2 + 2 is 2 + 2 is 5, 4, and you corrected yourself. You said 2 + 2 is 5 the first time. We got Apocalyptic in here. What's going on, Apocalyptic?
Hey, what's up? I've been talking about, you guys are on the topic of genetic fallacy.
We can barely hear you, man.
Oh, let me try
Yeah.
to go back.
So yeah, I mean, I think you're right, man. I think what we need to do is we need to try to get more soldiers in this community to start fighting back. Because once we start getting more and more people in this community to start fighting back, we're going to become stronger and we're going to be better equipped. There are already a lot. They keep on saying, well, there's no scientists that agree with me. That's a load of crap. There are people that are subscribed to my channel that have degrees in biochemistry. One of them has a degree in physics, I believe. Sean, we all know who Sean is. There's a lot of different people that are subscribed to me that support what I say, but we need more people to come in, to keep putting that content out there, to keep throwing the baits out there, to get Christians to start coming into this community and defend us. Because eventually, as we keep on doing that, we grab people from all different walks of life. We might be grabbing some philosopher, somebody who's got credentials in some sort of area that can be very beneficial to what we're doing here. And I think that's what's important here. They're too comfortable sitting around in their circles, lying and twisting information, and it doesn't really matter what we say. We can directly refute what they say. I realize, and we can 100% confirm that they're wrong, but it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really even faze them. They don't even really care. And that is because this community is mainly made up of these people. And we can't, I mean, obviously we can grab the variety of different people from different backgrounds. I just think that we need to, in order to do that, we need to make sure that the attention isn't on them. It's about different content and the actual substance. So, I mean, you're right. We need to get more people in this community that are going to be strong brothers and sisters that will directly confront what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm just eating something, but anyway, yeah, man. That's what they like to do. They like to. The fact of the matter is, there's strength in numbers, and they'll try to use their overwhelming numbers to their advantage. This is what these people do. I think in one instance, it's like they are saying that they don't really want a challenge. It's like they simply saying that they don't want people to disagree with their paradigm. But at the same time, if they have nobody to challenge them on certain things and to take a particular position that is different from their own, then there'll just be a mess of echo chambers all day. And they're the ones always talking about, we don't want echo chambers here, we don't want echo chambers. But they're coming at people and talking at people in such a way in which that would only result ultimately. They're doing everything possible to create an echo chamber atmosphere while trying to say they don't want echo chambers. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing about it, man. Their echo chambers are echo chambers simply because people in our community, they've seen some of the things that I'm talking about right now. Almost nobody wants to go over there and talk with them. They might be lucky if they get like one person to come into their rooms. But if you really look at some of their hangouts, like JD Kane's hangouts or Steve's or even some of Hawkeye's hangouts, and Hawkeye is one of the more respectful ones in their community, they can't get anybody. They really can't. The majority of the time, it's only a bunch of atheists agreeing with each other. You look at my hangouts, man. If anytime I want to actually have an open hangout, I don't have any problem getting somebody in. But not every single time. Sometimes when it's like late at night, there won't be anybody come in. People won't come in. But that's usually what it's got to be. You know, it's really, really late at night, and most everybody's asleep or something. You know. But overall, if I want to get somebody in a room, I mean, I can have a discussion, and the reason why is because, you know what? Despite the fact that you guys want to say how my rooms are, people can actually see that my rooms are actually more interesting than your rooms. And I am more fair in my rooms than there are in your rooms. I mean, if people really, really did have the problems with my rooms like you guys say they do, then I wouldn't be having anybody come into any of my hangouts. And I get them all the time. I just had David Heller come in just the other day in my room.
Yeah, the thing is, there's a lot of very educated people out there who don't typically involve themselves in social media. Like in my church, in my circles, I actually do know a research scientist, and he's very well versed in molecular biology and all sorts of scientific subjects. So yes, I actually know a research scientist. But generally what happens is you have people that have knowledge on these sorts of levels who don't feel like they want to entertain their time in social media. They're more concerned about personal matters in their own lives, and about talking with people offline and trying to reach the lost offline because they think online social media mediums like YouTube and whatnot is a cesspool and it'll be a waste of their time. That's generally the thing with people who are believers who are educated. More often than not, they will spend more of their efforts offline than online. The trolls and whatnot is completely the opposite on their side.
Actually, I mean, just a real quick point. Somebody actually told that directly to Steve, that, as Steve was asking him to come into a room. It was a certain theist, I believe. He was asking this individual to come into his room, and the guy told him just straight up no. I mean, just keep me out of your drama. People can see it, man. And they stay quiet about that. but people can see it. People don't want to associate themselves with this community because they're so rude. They're so dishonest. They twist information all the time. It's always about drama. It's just, on very, very rare occasions, a discussion can go okay, but that's usually when they're talking to somebody who doesn't know anything about the topic, and they can't respond to them. They don't really know what to say, because when it's like that, they can, stroke their egos and make themselves feel like they're smarter than they actually are, acting like they're intellectuals or they're teachers, great wise people who are gonna help this guy understand the things of the universe. They could sit back and act like that, but if it's somebody disagreeing with them, if it's somebody that's very knowledgeable on a certain topic, who just not even very knowledgeable, just somebody who doesn't know anything about the topic but can see some inconsistencies in what they're saying, they get mad pretty quick. And some of these people have gone down the route of cursing us out and being very infuriated after we point out that they're wrong about something, and they've all got a history of doing those types of things, which is hilarious because they'll get on my case where I might raise my voice sometimes when people are being interruptive, or they might be calling names or playing games with me or something, but I've never gone down that road to curse anybody out. Never.
Yeah, exactly. It's just sick high school mentality. Agree with us, join the club. And if you don't, you're not going to be part of the clique. You're not going to be part of the paradigm. You're not going to be part of the cause. That's all this crap is about. You can take the person out of high school, but you can't take the high school out of the person.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We got Apocalyptic back in here. Let's see if he got his mic situation sorted out.
Yeah, if the sound isn't coming in good, I'll just leave and go buy another mic later on.
It's coming in a little bit better, but I think we got to keep ourselves muted. I'm going to increase your volume a little bit. That way we can hear you a little better. So give me 1 second, all right?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I'd rather just come back in. I'll just go buy a new mic and catch up with you guys later.
Oh, no, you're loud and clear now, man.
No, we can hear you good now, man.
Oh, well, I've had a couple things on my mind with this whole genetic fallacy stuff. And, one of my hot topics is this genetic entropy issue and DNA repair enzymes. And, one of the main points I try to make is that, in the 1800s, this whole theory of evolution, this undirected processes, when time goes by and we see something like the DNA repair enzyme, a repair mechanism, I think that this theory of undirected processes goes right out the window as per scientific observation as of late. And, a lot of things are surpassing everything the theory was wrought in. But I think that the genetic entropy, I've looked into it, and I don't see a lot of holes that people could poke in it. And I just think that with the DNA repair enzymes, we're talking about the whole theory of mutation. Mutation. Everything that's this theory pretty much rests upon as far as the curriculum goes. Like I said, everything seems to be surpassing everything the theory was based in upon new observation and new science. And I think that with the DNA repair enzymes and the genetic entropy issue, that speciation is not a scientific possibility. And from there is where I'm going to start building a case on. Do you guys want to speak to that at all?
Well, actually, this interestingly enough does tie back to the DNA and water situation. I don't want to get too deep into that, actually, because it's a completely different topic, and I'm going to be making a video over that I'm going to upload on this channel, and I'm going to probably be doing a hangout over it sometime later on in the distant future when I have time. But it is interesting because the original thing that I was talking about over this was DNA and water, that DNA, if you look at the early Earth environment, would break down to its constituent parts, and that you needed some sort of driving force, something to skew things in a way to actually manipulate these necessary components of DNA to come together in specific sequences so that you can have life. And the problem is that we really can't see any conceivable way how that's actually possible. I mean, we can assume all sorts of different ways how the DNA strand might be able to be protected, or the RNA might be able to be protected, whatever first self-replicator there was. But there really is nothing but problems with it. Like the point that was actually brought up recently over this hydrolysis reaction and condensation reaction is that the condensation reaction and the hydrolysis reaction, they're actually separate, different reactions, right? A condensation reaction actually is when something is being built up. You have some sort of structure, some sort of mechanistic phenomena that skews things in a certain way, to where now you have a some sort of built end product, right? An hydrolysis reaction is the opposite of that, where things are breaking down. And if you're just having some free-floating nucleotides in water, like a lot of these abiogenesis views are or hold to, you're going to be subject to an hydrolysis reaction, and that's even what a lot of these people in our community agree to.
Feedback noise?
I'm hearing a little bit of feedback.
Look, I'm going to have to get off here and either get another mic or just go buy one, but I'll catch up with you guys later on this point. Okay?
All right, man.
We don't have to have an echo chamber hangout. We can have some conversations, but I ain't sending nobody no messages. I don't think I sent you anything. Nobody sent me no messages.
Honestly, I didn't even check, so let me check really quick. C-Man actually wants to come in.
Oh, okay. I don't recall getting a message from him. Maybe I did. Hold on, let me check.
No, this is C-Man, not G-Man.
Oh, I know C-Man. C-Man's cool.
All right, so I sent him the link already. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that we have to talk about over that DNA and water situation that wasn't ever brought up, because 90% of the people in our community, they don't get it. I mean, Hogtie didn't know what the phosphodiester bond was. I had to actually tell him what the phosphodiester bond was. Dragnock didn't know what Le Chatelier's principle was. That became very evident after Sam actually started talking about it. So there's a lot of stuff that we actually have to talk about that I haven't been able to get into yet. I mean, you got to look at the Ka value, for example, of the reactant, because when the Ka value is favoring the reactant, then it's going to be a weak acid. So how does the weak acid, how is it going to react in equilibrium with this, with water? Again, we got to get into Le Chatelier's principle, distribution of, or concentration of the water. What are the other elements that are actually in the water? What direction will it go in? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that we got to talk about. But anyways, I guess that's the topic for another hangout. I'll wait for C-Man to come in. After C-Man comes in, I guess we'll let them hang out. Yeah,
but here's the thing, man. If these people just want, just an endless echo chamber, then why would they even care whether we're here or not, honestly? Because at the end of the day, if you don't agree with them, either you don't want to be educated, or if you do meet the criteria of what they would say is educated, like a college education, for example, but you disagree with them anyway, then they're going to find other people who are college educated and try a bigger number who disagree with them. Again, it's the goalpost shifting, goalpost moving. And it seems like they'll constantly do this shifting until it gets to the point to where there's nobody who disagrees with them, and they're not going to entertain people who disagrees with them. And it's just going to be people who do agree with them. Those are going to be the ones who should be respected. Those are going to be the ones who are educated or want to be educated and want to learn by their standards and their criteria.
Right.
Because
I want to say something. I want to say something just really quick. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I just
was cool
because they're going to talk about what I just did right now. Steve, I banned him from this channel because he's not offering anything of any substance. Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a discussion, that's one thing. But screw that. I mean, even if you wanted to have a discussion, look, you don't listen to anybody. I don't even know how many times people have to correct you and teach you about certain things that you don't understand, but you just keep the issue going. Even right now, you need to admit and confess the fact that what Skylar did was a genetic fallacy, and you don't care. You just keep wasting people's time about things that you don't understand, and you just can't seem to be able to process and get. I mean, look at the other day when we were talking about the other room. He came in briefly, but we were talking about DNA and water again, confused the condensation reaction, and was asking me about a catalyst for a condensation reaction. We were talking about a hydrolysis reaction. It was the complete opposite of that. Look at all of these other things that keep on popping up, not understanding what the ATP synthase and ATP synthesis are actually being interconnected. Not understanding what pseudogenes are. I mean, me and Antonio actually had to correct him months and months and months before everybody else did about the zygote thing. The guy gets every single thing wrong that he talks about, and is just, I'm sorry, he's a fool. He doesn't listen. He doesn't offer anything in this great debate. I sat back listening to him talk to G-Man, and G-Man was asking him some questions about his evidence for evolutionary theory, where he can show that a dog can become a non-dog over a long period of time. G-Man misspeaks and says, or a dog becoming a non-dog over another period of time. And he phrased it some way specifically. And he jumped on that and tried to make it sound like G-Man was saying that a dog was going to live for millions of years. Oh, you're so stupid, G-Man. A dog can't live millions of years. Playing stupid like that, as if G-Man really thinks that a dog is going to live for millions of years. Just trying to make G-Man sound stupid so he didn't have to answer any questions. I'm sick of the nonsense. We all know the situation where I've challenged him to a debate for months and months and months. And he just refuses to have discussion. Screw the guy. So he's banned. I don't want him commenting on this channel. I don't think that anybody should be having him comment on any other channel. He's a dingbat that doesn't listen to anybody, and he's got a community of people who enable him.
Yeah, and they're right here enabling him right now on the chat. They're just, this is what I'm talking about, man. These people engage in this gang-like mentality. These are the people that he's saying, agrees with him so much. These people can't stand people who disagree with them. They'll flood anybody's channel to try to silence any dissent in any way they can. Engage with them on anything. Either we agree with them or shut up, or we're just uneducated, and they will endlessly troll us. They'll endlessly thumbs down our videos. They'll endlessly talk bad about us. And it's just like you said one time, and they just want to tell us that we're wrong. That's all they want to do. They don't want to have any mature discussions. They don't want to engage with people who may pose a challenge to what they believe, or who may take a contrary view to theirs. They don't really want that at all. And
they're ignorant fools, and they're ignorant fools who don't realize that they're ignorant fools. And the ones that do, they're comforted by their community of people that are even more clueless than they are. That's pretty much what it comes down to in a nutshell. The people like Steve, they need to be shunned. We don't need to give them attention. We don't need to draw any attention to them because he's already been dealt with numerous times. I mean, has anybody seen the videos that I put up on him? Has anybody seen the only real discussion that we've had with each other that's lasted, that lasted a pretty decent amount of time? See how bad he did, and then afterwards, when he made that other video and doubled down, has anybody seen Nephilim Free's discussions with Steve? Has anybody seen Arcane's discussions with Steve? I mean, time after time and time. I mean, DD, I bring him up against his discussion that he had with Steve. The guy's just been smacked around all over the place, and I'm getting kind of tired of hearing other Christians and even myself utter his name out of our mouth because he doesn't do anything. He's just a troll here online that is, for some reason, we've allowed more attention to than even J.D. Kane. I mean, look at Steve is pretty much on the same level as MM Artist. Do you remember MM Artist, Antonio? Remember when?
Of course I do.
remember when on Nephilim Free's channel when I actually sat him down and started speaking with him? And
oh yeah, I was there.
He brought up some article. I don't remember specifically what it had to do with, and I read through it. And then I asked him if he understood what the article was actually about, and I read it to him, and he didn't know what it was about. I'm tired of that reoccurring thing from these people to where they're not even understanding what they're criticizing us over. Then they run to their little hangouts and they start talking smack like they know something, and as they're puffing out their chest, talking about something that they're reading off of the screen. And then when I talk to them over it and question them, they have no freaking clue what they're talking about. They don't even know what it was that they were reading from. And yeah, so screw the guy. And hopefully other people, they get this too. I mean, as far as I can see, I think that I'm the only one who's actually been dealing with Steve. If it wasn't for me, I don't think he would even have any connection to the Christian community. He has to go out and look for Christians and try to get them to come to him because nobody wants to talk with him. So, I mean, in this hangout and other hangouts, I don't even want Steve's name mentioned. And I'm just going to let it be known he's not welcome in any of my hangouts anymore. As disrespectful as he has been through all the attempts to where I've tried to be as charitable as possible to get him in rooms, for him to lie right to my face numerous times in different videos. I mean, just screw the guy. And I hope other Christians that are going to be listening to me right now, they understand that as well. Just try not to bring up any drama that's going on with Steve in any of my hangouts, because even though this channel is going to have to do with drama, Steve isn't relevant. He's not doing anything in this community. If it was somebody in our community that was making points that we have to address that are important, that's important to deal with, that would be one thing. But 90% of the things that Steve is doing over on his channel is he's making things up, or he's twisting things and exaggerating things and making a whole hangout over that thing that he's exaggerated over, because he needs to spice things up. You know, nobody's going to come to his channel and listen to his dull ideas and views because he's boring. He's a very boring person. But if he spices things up by adding a little excitement and, you know, making things up or twisting things or exaggerating certain things, so he's going to draw attention to us. But look at his previous videos where he's only getting 300 to 400 views just in the last couple of weeks or so. Puts up one hangout about me where we're speaking about me. He got 800 views because he's talking about me. And yeah, you know, he doesn't deserve our attention. He needs to be ignored because he's not offering anything. He's only trying to feed and pull himself up by our bootlaces because we have more subscribers than him and viewers than him, and he knows that the atheists are going to come crawling to his channel if he starts talking about us.
And the thing is, he did the same thing with me. Like the other day, G-Man and I was looking at some of the views he had on his channel, and he had a video that was like 3 days prior that got like 500 some odd views. And then he did a video with G-Man's name and my name in it that was only 1 day prior that had like 630 or 650 some odd views. So check this out. 3 days prior, around 500 some views. 1 day prior.
Get a load of this. Get a load of this. Get a load of this.
All right.
Steve, I just banned Steve, so here's what Steve does. He comes over to me on his other channel. Steve's channel is popular because he speaks the truth and allows people to have an actual conversation and not be banned for speaking out. Doxastic dialectics is it's his sock account. And I know it's his sock account because he said it live in a video that was his sock account. So he's coming over here. You're actually going to come over with your sock account? Wow, man.
Wow. He came up here with a sock account and tried to talk in a third person. Are you for real?
That's pretty sad.
He came over here with a sock account and talked in the third person. We caught that live, folks. This is live, people.
I banned him. I banned it. Look at it. He said, yep. He said, yep. Wow. I wonder if he's done that with other sock accounts. Maybe there's other sock accounts. Maybe there's other sock accounts out there that we're not aware of.
They'll probably.
I know JD.
Sorry.
I can't believe he did this with a sock account. You come over running your mouth talking in a third person when you know it was you. Sad. Absolutely sad. We just saw this live in the Hangout, people.
Wow, man. And they don't care either. I mean, anybody who's watching, they don't care. That was some dishonest BS right there. You see, you see.
Talking about Steve speaks the truth. I'm talking about you. If that's not an inflated ego of yourself, I don't know what is. There is no. This dude is like some middle-aged looking dude, you know, trying to argue with some young cats. So I mean, because I think he has made it clear at certain points that he's quite a bit older than us, I think. And so we're only 3 years apart, you and I, and he's clearly much older than us, and he's looking at us trying to argue with a couple much younger bucks than he is, and he doesn't like the fact that we actually got good points to make. Dude, we are a challenge to his ego. That's just the bottom line. We challenge what he believes. We challenge this paradigm, and it offends his ego. And he needs the support of all these people, all these trolls, to feed his ego. That's what it comes down to.
Can you believe? And I'm not trying to, keep you off the mic, C-Man, or C-Man. I apologize. I just want to point out that. Can you guys see what I mean, though? Like that level of dishonesty. I'm glad you guys weren't here when I caught that, because I point out all the time the type of dishonest things that this guy does, and you guys seen what he did. So anyways, go ahead, C-Man. I apologize. I know you've been here for a little bit trying to speak.
Well, that'll explain some of the dumb downs on the video.
He just came in with his third account because his father is deceased, right? And he uses the William McCrae account. He just came in with a third one, and he's doing it again.
The other one, he tried to speak like it wasn't him, though. Everybody knows that this other account is him.
He said, at least I admit I use socks. Like,
you didn't admit, you
third person.
You admitted it after you pointed it out. You didn't think that we knew that was your sock account. That's the point here, man. Look at him, man.
My goodness. That's the ultimate facepalm, man. Yeah, wow.
Okay, guys, I mean, all you atheists that were running your mouth earlier, why aren't you pointing this out? I mean, you're confirming what I'm saying right now. Of course, it's silent. Like, everybody stops commenting as we pointed this out.
Look at how insecure this dude is. If he was so secure in his position and things he believed, he would just like, you know what? The CCP are just a bunch of cows who are trying to silence folks. I'm going to just move on and do a hangout or something. Whatever. Let the CCP talk among themselves. But he came back, not one, but with two side accounts and kept going on and on. And even in one of them, tried to pretend like it wasn't him. Tell me that's not insecurity right there.
Look at Charles Huckleberry. I bet Steve has more education than true empiricism. Who cares how dishonest he was just right now, right? He's just going to make a statement like that.
Exactly. Let me admit that I had a particular sock account, right? And I did that exact same thing on not you, but Steve's channel, knowing that atheists and non-believers and other people knew it was my sock account. And then I spoke in a third person. Let me have done that same thing, or you've done that same thing, and see how we would just get destroyed, how they would never let us hear the end of it.
You'd be crucified.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Christmas says you are talking about him. He should be able to respond. You kicked him from the chat. Well, screw him. I mean, who cares? I mean, you're not going to come over here and lie like that. And like I said, I mean, I've already explained myself earlier as to why I don't want him in any of my rooms. He's had opportunities after opportunities to come in my rooms. And he deliberately tries to overtalk people and act like he's going to dominate the discussion. That's not going to happen here anymore. He's had so many different opportunities, man. I've even offered him where we can have a debate to talk about some of this stuff. And if he didn't feel comfortable being in the room with me, he could bring anybody in that room with him just against me by myself. It could be Sam the scientist. It could be Fiona Robertson. It could be even you, CRISPR, or anybody in his community that he feels comfortable with, but he avoided that. So Steve doesn't want to come in here anyways to talk about anything or hash anything out. I'm not about to offer even allow this guy to come in here to backpedal and to defend himself from the lie that he just made. There's no reason for that. We just caught him lying live in the open. What you want for him to do is just to make excuses for himself so that this isn't going to be talked about later on. And
yeah, and they're not going to call him out for using his static, man. Ooh.
Charles Huckleberry. Move on, gentlemen. Did anybody move on when it came to the issue of when G-Man started talking about the chocolate atheist thing? I don't know if everybody was seeing that chocolate atheist thing. Did we move on? No, you guys grinded that in, and you kept it going, and you kept it going, and you kept it going. Now, we catch this man lying.
Yeah, now it's move on.
We catch this man lying, and, let's just leave that alone. Let's just, go.
That's what I'm saying. Else. These people would endlessly defend, when people do something clearly stupid. Because, I'm gonna be frank about it, Steve. That was stupid. That was the dumbest thing I've seen you did on G Plus. That was really dumb. That was stupid. All right.
But my question is why does he think? Why is he so bold? Why does he feel comfortable doing that? It's because he's gotten away with it many times in the past. He knows the atheist community doesn't care. He knows that the only time that actually matters is if it's a Christian that's doing it, or if it's somebody that is holding to what we call fundamentalist type of views, or holding to creationist views, because it's beneficial to try to make them look bad. Now, I'm not talking about this to try to condemn the guy at all. I'm only talking about it, and I'm bringing it up now, and I keep on talking about it because I think it's important for people to see the type of things that are going on in this community.
Yeah, there's a static increasing.
I don't know if you wanted to say something, C. Brown, or C. Man. I don't know if you had something you wanted to ask.
That static, man, dang. I'm just saying, man.
Thank you for inviting me, though.
All right, that's cool, man.
Yeah, that's static.
I guess
it's man.
Is it really, really bad?
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to end the hangout anyways. We've been on for a long time, but this was a really good hangout. We pointed out a lot of interesting things.
And we caught this live, folks. This is on the record. So let the record show that he came in as a sock account, talked in the third person. The great Steve McRae, the great, knowledgeable, I'm secure Steve McRae came in as a sock account, talking in the third person. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
He started talking about how his hangouts were, what did he say? His hangouts were great, and that his hangouts were, people come to Steve's rooms to learn and all the other crap in third person, right? I don't know if can you guys hear me? Was it static?
I can kind of, but it's very staticky.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going to hang out now, guys. Great discussion, like I said.
Yeah, they're going to endlessly defend him to the ends of the earth, man. And that's just the way it's going to be. I think we've absolutely broke great ground here and really showed that our side is vindicated more than ever. It's really time for us to move on from these people, man. They've demonstrated quite a bit tonight. Quite a bit was made very evident with these people's behavior tonight.
All right. So God bless everybody. Take it easy. And
what day? And as always, like the last time, your community sucks.
Yeah, your community sucks.